Welcome to Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Welcome back to Breaking Down Bits. I'm Brian Gendron.
I'm Drew Jordan, and season 3 well underway. Some great conversations happening, some good stuff happened with the Breaking Down Bits family and all the things. The open feedback mic, virtual feedback mic that we do, it's on fire. So many good comics hopping in there. The feedback is just like, the level of feedback is really upping. If you got some jokes and you want to get some feedback, some tags, some help writing, it's such a good crew. Hop in there. We do it almost every Tuesday. Email us there at the bottom, breakingdownbits@gmail.com if you want to get in on that.
Yeah, we're doing those Tuesday nights. We try to keep it just at an hour, usually go just a few minutes over, but we run it tight. Starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we've been really consistent. So nearly every week we've had that thing going on. So drop us an email, tell us which show you want to get on, and we'll try to get you up. We love bringing in new people and bringing in new ideas, and that's been a great part of my creative process, doing those weekly feedback mics.
Same.
Also, if you haven't yet checked out some of the other episodes from season 3, Breaking Down Bits is your access portal to everything that we do. Our last episode with Adriana Appalucci was so much fun.
Yeah.
Good time to get into callbacks. What do you got?
Yeah, let's do it. So it's kind of a complicated one, and it's probably not as well formed as they typically are, but bear with me. So one thing that she does super well is take super relatable content. She has jokes about, airplanes and kids getting lost and stuff like that. But and so there might be a lot of jokes like that out there, but she has such an incredible way of making sure that her jokes are unique and from her personal angle. And I think that as a younger writer, you want to write about relatable stuff, but sometimes your jokes can come off a little too generic, and you just have to fight through, like as they say, like the third way or whatever. Like, don't write the obvious joke. Don't even write the second good idea. Wait till you get that really unique angle. I think she does that well, and just really enjoyed her on that. And also just her thoughts about the culture, the PC culture that we're kind of in, and how you have to write jokes for yourself that you think are funny, but also be aware there's an audience and try to bring them into that conversation, make it funny for them. So a lot of good and timely conversation in that episode.
Yeah, that last part you just talked about, the PC culture, that comes up a lot when I tell people that, lay people, not crazy comedians that we hang out with, but people off the street, that I'm into comedy. They're like, man, it must be hard being the way that the culture is. And sure, it is. One of the things that I do to combat that is most of what I do is biographical. It's about me, and I'm the butt end of most of the jokes. And so yeah. you can't come at me for making fun of myself. And so you can still get into some of those topics, but as long as it's really you being the butt end, then you can still play in those spaces. That's how I combat that. But my callback from the episode was usually I get into some of the more of the business side of things, as you're a better joke writer and maybe I'm a better business guy. I don't know. Maybe that's why we work well together. But she had mentioned Ari Shaffir really being influential in her career, doing things like sharing her album on the podcast, bringing her on tour, and those types of things. So, find that comic that you relate with. Don't be weird, but somebody when they're in your city, if you have access to comics that are a little further ahead in your career, go ahead and make sure you talk to them when it's appropriate to do so. Maybe you hit it off, and who knows, they could be the ones that can help you accelerate your career. But don't be weird about it. Don't be weird. Don't be weird. I'll just keep saying that.
Takeaway. Don't be weird.
Yeah. But breakingdownbits.com is where you can get the Adriana Appalucci episode. All of our episodes, we got a great catalog running over 24 hours now of material to help comics that are in the game, wanting to get in the game, or just comedy enthusiasts. Quick thing, Drew, I want to talk about a couple dates we have coming up, then we'll bring in our guest. Let's see, we have, you and I now run a regular show in Houston. It's called The Riot. If you're in the Houston area, February 27th, tomorrow night, Saturday is our next one. And then March 13th, we're bringing in Breaking Down Bits guest Ian Lara. will be here doing 2 shows with us at Rudyard's in Houston. And maybe I'm a little off schedule because the day before that, we are going to go meet Ian in Lafayette. We're going to be at not the best beer garden, but the worst beer garden on March 12th, Lafayette, working with Ian Lara. So that's going to be a fun Breaking Down Bits weekend. Come out if you're in one of those markets.
Little Breaking Down Bits road trip, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. All right. Anything else before we bring in our guest?
Now let's do it.
Let's fire it up.
Willie Macc was the star of the hit BET show College Hill. He appeared on TV episodes and movies such as Hulu's Casual, True TV's Laugh Mob Laugh Tracks, CSI, Journeyman, and Meet the Spartans. His movie House Arrest has over 4 million views on YouTube. He's appeared in over 20 national commercials, including Snapple, Kia, and was the face of Pump Water in New Zealand. Willie Macc now travels as a stand-up comic, and you can see him frequently at the Comedy Store and Laugh Factory in Hollywood.
Willie Macc, how are you, man?
Hey, what's good, peoples? How's it going?
Great. How are you?
You know, I'm excited. Working on my camera. I know we talked a little bit earlier. So I have a dream car. I've had an '88 Camaro and an '84 Camaro, and so I just bought myself a '92 Camaro, and I'm like on YouTube trying to figure out the cheapest way of getting everything done. And sometimes cheap isn't better. I'm gonna say this. Sometimes trying to save a couple of bucks, because I'm looking at. I swear, when I look at YouTube, they just like they have a screwdriver and a monkey wrench, and they like changing out the entire engine and everything. And so I think
not going that way. Huh?
Nah, it's a lot more than that. So I'm having trouble even with my seats, like I told y'all. But it's fun. It's gonna be my project car, so I'm excited.
That's
excellent,
awesome.
Man. You got to take up hobbies. Well, the industry's a little slower, I think. Take up hobbies outside of the industry.
Yeah, because you're gonna lose your minds inside. Like I know for the first couple of months, because before quarantining and all of this, I was out. I was at a different comedy club or like an open mic spot twice, and I'll be out from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. every day. So when there's like you just gonna be stuck inside the house, I was like, all right, well, you know, it's only gonna be a few months, and then those few months turned into it's like a year now. Yeah. So I think I had to do something because I was losing my mind inside the house.
That is kind of crazy how it's also exciting to always hear people who are professional comics still grinding, still working, and how much work and effort even people at your level are still putting in. But yeah, it's maddening as our schedules were so flipped upside down.
Where y'all located?
We're in Houston.
So y'all a little bit more opened up than we are.
We got some Republican stuff going on over here, and it's been good for opening businesses.
So it's just worse for us in LA because all the businesses are shut down, and like prior to like it just started reopening, just like outdoor dining is now just a thing, maybe from like a month, like even like it's not even been a month. So it was just extra rough. They were shutting down. Like there would be like comics that would do like secret open mics where at least we were outside and cops drive by like, no, y'all can't do this. It's like we're losing our fucking sanity right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's my quick story is I left my bigger apartment to get a small studio because I was never at home. I was literally working my full-time job, coming home, changing clothes, and going out to mics, and then coming home and sleeping. I was never here. And then as soon as I do that, the pandemic strikes, and I'm trapped in this 500 square foot prison for a year. And I'm like, I need a door to close. I need something. I
did the opposite. So in May of last year, I moved to I was staying in like a 250 square foot studio, like back house. Yeah. And when the pandemic hit, they're like, yeah, this is going to be going on to like June, July. I was like, fuck that. I'm going to get a bigger place. Yeah. So I moved right by the Staples Center, and I'm paying like quadruple of what I was paying then. Then it's like, I can't use none of the amenities. And I'm like, fuck, I wish I stayed in that smaller apartment.
Well, if you want to come sleep on my couch, just let me know. I got a spot.
Yeah, we got those mics and shows every night, man. Come out to Houston.
Really?
And I'm not trying to rub that in your face. LA, man, I get it. I can feel the pain of y'all in LA. Newsom got that thing tight over there, and it's I think we're near the end. I think.
It feels closer to the end in Houston than LA, probably right now.
Yeah. But I will say, quarantine made me more creative. So a lot of the projects that I was putting off, I started writing on again, and a lot of the focuses that I was doing straight on stand-up, I am now able to put that towards something more creatively. Like I got my show. We actually start filming my HGTV show next month. So the money that I made in comedy, I took home to St. Louis and bought real estate with it. HGTV in need of black people. Said, hey, let's do a show together. So I got my own home renovating show that I'm gonna be doing in St. Louis. Or I just started writing a couple of scripts, and they're being shopped around right now. I would not have done that if it wasn't for quarantine. Even though I was losing my mind inside, I was like, let me put that to some use.
Well, I love that, and I think Drew and I can agree with you. And we started this show during this period as well. And I think it shows who are the real creatives, like who are the ones that are really in it, out there creating stuff, and maybe who's in it for maybe the wrong reasons, or maybe even lazy about being creative, or whatever it is, right? And I applaud you for one, getting that show. Excited to see you putting that new home together on HGTV. My wife will be watching. That's her jam. But I'll watch it with her. And yeah, I mean, it's good. You got to keep that creative mind going, or you'll lose it. And it's too sad to lose that, those creative juices when they're flowing.
What did y'all do to stay creative? Like besides the podcast, were y'all doing anything?
Yeah, when the pandemic hit, I bought my first camera, and because I wanted to create some YouTube content. And now, like a year and a half in, I'm getting pretty good at I shoot photos. I got a YouTube series called New to Drew, and I go and I try things I've never done before. I've done surfing, wrestling, went to a farmer's market, tried CrossFit, and I just shoot it like some old Conan O'Brien sketch like he used to do when he would go out and try new stuff and just fail magnificently.
I love it. Nice.
I love that. I'm loving photo and video. It's like a new passion, and it only kind of came about because of the pandemic.
Nice. Yeah. Brian.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm producing a comedy show that's really taken off. When it first hit, man, I was doing it with a live stream, so people could watch it at home, and we do limited capacity. That just ended up being way too much work, but I'm still super invested in the show. In fact, Drew helps me run it. We've been selling them out at limited capacity every other Saturday night at a venue here. And so I put a lot of energy into that over the break. Mm-hmm.
Sweet. It's been so long since I've been at a venue. I've been doing a lot of Zoom shows, which I did not like at first, but then I ended up, you adjust.
Yeah.
But to be at an actual venue with an actual audience, man, it almost sounds like something that's in the museums or something.
Yeah. We do that. We do a Zoom show as a part of our so every Tuesday night we bring together fans of the show and we all work on our comedy. It's kind of like a workshop thing. There's no audience there. That's great. I'm not going to change that. After the pandemic, it's become a part of my creative process now for writing.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. The thing about it that I liked was that you're able to travel without leaving your room. Yeah. I was able to do shows in New York and Texas. I did shows. Anyway, all over. And I'm right here. I'm this is actually not too bad.
Yeah, with the Breaking Down Bits thing, it's been so crazy because now we're getting to write comedy and workshop stuff with people from Taiwan and Russia and England. And it gives you a broader sense. And as Brian always puts it, when you're in your workshopping in your local scene can be kind of weird. There's some competitive kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And when you're workshopping with someone who lives on the other side of the world or other side of the country, it kind of diffuses that. And you're just happy to help them with their success. I
love that. That's exactly the right mentality. I was actually having a conversation with so interesting story. So I was at the Comedy Store. Have y'all ever been here and been to the Comedy Store?
I haven't. We did La Jolla, but never the real one.
I'm coming. Once y'all open up, I'm there. I can't wait.
Yeah, well, I'm there all the time, so you can come hang with me. So there was one time I was putting together a show with a comedian named Ron Taylor. And our shows, we've been planning this show for a whole month. We've been promoting it. We've been begging folks to come. An hour before our show, we get a call from the Comedy Store. And it's like, hey, y'all's night is canceled. Dave Chappelle is showing up. Like, what? So we're at the Comedy Store just like defeated. I'm in the back. There's a back part of the Comedy Store and there's this VIP like bar area. So I'm in the back. Everybody's like, hey, Willie, you want to smoke, man? I was like, nah, I ain't smoking, man. Fuck that. I'm chilling. And I'm talking the most shit about Dave. I'm like, this is the second time Dave Chappelle has canceled one of my shows. So the manager of the Comedy Store is like, hey, Willie, let's go and get you a drink. So I'm sitting in the VIP room with me, my boy Pap, and his girl. And Pap Johnson is a comedian too. And so we're drinking and talking. And I'm like, man, fuck, man, Richie. And then in walks Dave Chappelle. I fangirl clean the fuck out. And so I'm getting to a point in this story. So Dan obviously comes with his entourage, but his entourage was like Norm Macdonald and like the Tony Hinchcliffe. It's just like, and it was like all these other David Spade and Chris Rock. I'm over here like, oh shit, in this VIP room. Like I felt like I'm not supposed to be here. And Dave was like, hey, young, whatever he called me. He's like, you want to hit this blunt? I said, yes. My boy looking at me was like, dude, you been turning down weed all night. And then Dave Chappelle, I'm like, Dave Chappelle offers you smoke. So I'm there. And I don't know if y'all know a comedian named Guy Torrey. Old school comedian, one of Dave's really good friends in stand up. And so he was like, you know what's wrong with you young folks? And now I'm getting super high. Like Dave doesn't have regular weed. Like I thought I smoked weed, but no, it was one hit. And I'm over here like this trying to stay leaning. I was like, oh my goodness, I ain't ever been this high before a day in my life. So while Guy is talking to me, he's dropping nuggets, but I couldn't stay focused all the way. But the two things that I took from him was he was like, a lot of you young comedians are in so much competition with each other. Y'all are too scared to help each other out, and y'all will never grow from there. It's just a bunch of crab in the barrels. He's like the reason why all of us in this room are right here is because when we was working together, we would always help each other, like workshop jokes, and there was never a competition. We had such a camaraderie. That's why you see the Adam Sandler movies have the same cast. A lot of these people have just Eddie Murphy in his movies have the same cast. They just kept that together. A lot of the younger ones, it's like we're all over the place. It's like there's not. I mean, yes, there are going to be people that's successful that way. But so then the second thing that he dropped on me that was a little nugget. He was like, and y'all doing a lot of these Instagram sketches. I was like, yeah, some of them get like 500,000 million views. He's like, y'all stupid. He was like, why don't y'all write one or two of those sketches, put it together, and then put them in the film festival circuit? He's like, it's cool that you're getting these sketches and these views, and eventually maybe one day you keep this successful and you'll take off. But if you put it in the film festival circuit and get those laurels, those officially, like make it a short film and be like, and because all you're gonna get is official selection to the Los Angeles Film Festival, the official selection. And it's like, so then people start seeing you as a writer, the conversation becomes different, and that's how you end up getting some of these writing jobs and blah 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 blah, and get meetings that way. So those are two nuggets before I said, hey man, I'm gonna go use the bathroom, and I went to lay down outside on the Comedy Store and missed Dave Chappelle's whole set.
No.
I was not proper 3 hours.
Well, I'm glad you got those. Are some great nuggets, by the way. I mean, the first one we kind of already hit on, which is just workshop with people that and make sure you're doing that somewhere. Find a way, and we found a safe place that works for us. But find that place to workshop and grow together, work together. Yeah. That's huge. And then the second one about creating and becoming a writer. I mean, that's awesome. That's a really good path. I mean, everybody knows, everybody who's been on this show, mostly traditional, a lot of pure stand-ups are like, oh shit, I should have been doing more of that video work, and now they're doing it to catch up. Mm-hmm. But you're taking it to another level. And really, if you really want to write and you really want to get those gigs, like this is a path forward, and that's great. And Drew, hope you're listening. That seems like something caught your attention.
So I actually joined a meetup group here in Houston for filmmakers, and one of the things that they do is once every season they shoot a short film, and they let you pitch scripts. So I was like, ooh, I need to write a script and pitch it, because if I pitch it to this group, now I have a crew of talented film and video type people and actors that might come together and make my script come to life. And like, what a cool process to be a part of. And I'm really, like I said, I'm nerding out on photo and video, and it's been such an interesting thing, because I'm almost finding that I love creating on YouTube as much as I love being on stage, and they're not competing. I love doing both. And I'm learning kind of somehow, some weird way, they're really working together.
Nice. I got into that. Like, if you go to, I have an Instagram for my photography, Willie Macc Photography on Instagram. Okay. And because that was something that I wanted to do. Kind of, I had this creative urge, and I was like going downtown taking pictures of graffiti walls, and it was like, it's
fun, man. I love doing photo. Actually, I'm picking up some gigs around town, just like with different bars. I'm shooting some of their social media stuff, covering their events, and just networking. And guess what? As I'm meeting with these venues, these bar venues, now I have an in to be like, hey, can we put a show at your venue? Can we connect on this? And it's just like, Brian is like the best networker I've ever met. I'm terrible at it, but this is helping me network and get on shows and be a benefit to the community.
Right.
I can bring some pretty great photos for people. So yeah, those accessory kind of talents and abilities, you got to use them as a part of your stand-up, as a part of your brand, for sure.
Great.
So you've had an interesting, real quick, because we just got into talking, man. Usually we're like on, like, hey, tell us your story. But this is actually, I think, better, honestly. But I do want to get a little bit in your story, because you obviously, now we know you do photography. I didn't even know that, but you've done stuff in film, you've done some writing. Walk us through, I guess, the evolution of your career, and what's best is it's a lot of newer comics. I mean, this is comics at any level, but newer comics for people thinking to get into comedy. If you think about that as the audience, where'd you get your first big breaks? Those types of things are really usually beneficial and helpful.
My journey into comedy and all of this is very different. I'm originally from St. Louis.
Okay.
And I came to California chasing a girl. Yeah, I didn't want anything to do with this industry. I was going to go to school. Going to college was how I was able to pay my way to like stay out here. So I went to college at a school that lost its accreditation while I was in it. American Intercontinental University. Found out that they was scamming all the students out of their money, and whole mess. And I still got to pay that shit back. Anyway, so while I'm out here, I needed money. And I'm like, how do people make money out here? And I found out about background work, the people that walk behind, in movies and stuff, just audience work. And so one of the shows that I worked on was the Bernie Mac show. Like I said, I'm not doing this for money. And so it was supposed to be 1 day's worth of work, but Bernie Mac was sick at this time. So that 1 day turned into a 6-day gig. And so I'm there, and Kalita Smith, who played Bernie Mac's wife on the Bernie Mac show, she's like, I used to have this really big afro. I don't know if y'all ever feel like while y'all listening right now, if y'all Google old Willie Macc, his fro was just like humongous. And so I'm actually going to show you all a picture while I'm talking about it.
For the record, this is on YouTube as well. If you're listening, you can get the visual there.
Oh, it's on YouTube. Oh man.
Yeah.
So she says to me, she was like, "Where are you from? You look like you're country." And okay, here's my.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
powerful. Young Willie. There we go.
And so she's like, no one's out here in California with just a big ass afro. And while I was like, oh, I'm from St. Louis, and she was like, oh, my assistant's from St. Louis. So she brings her assistant. Her assistant is like, we found out we went to the same school, we know the same teachers and all this, but she's older than me. And so in walks Bernie Mac, and he's like, who's this melted milk dud y'all talking to?
Melted milk.
And this was probably like day 2 or day 3 in. And every day that I saw him, he was just one of the coolest people that I met. He was just like, hey, what's up, milk dud? Like, that was like, and I was like, because if you know anything about being on set or being around like these a lot of stars, they're not talking to barely their own cast members, or they're not talking to like the guest star and co-star roles. So for you to just talk to the person that's just walking behind and just scenes and have that relationship really like was mind like opening for me. And I said, whatever it is this man does, I want to be him. Like I knew what a comic was, but I never really delved into comedy. And like I watched a couple of, I remember like one of the first stand-ups that I watched was old Russell Peters in Toronto. And I always had an admiration for comedy, but I never really understood the power that was behind comedy.
About how old are you at this point? How old are you in your process at this point?
This was 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2000, like 2004, 2005 when this happened. And so I started doing a little background work. I got a couple little weird lines and some weird independent projects. And then I ended up doing this thing on Craigslist called So You Want to Date My Sister. It never aired. And the producer for that was the executive producer for this other show that was on BET. And he was like, man, you're a funny dude. You ever tried to really act? I was like, nah, man, that ain't really me. I was out here because what I was going to do before I found out the school was a scam. I was going to go to school to be a lawyer. So I was going to go to Western University, and that was going to be my thing, business law. And so he says, you should really try to maybe focus on TV. I was like, all right, look, what you thinking? He's like, I'm doing a show, BET, called College Hill. And I was like, he's like, if you can make my sister laugh, you're pretty much in for the show. His sister was Tracy Edmonds, who was about to marry Eddie Murphy at the time. And Eddie, long story short, Eddie stood her up at the altar because he didn't want to marry her. But so she had this show called College Hill.
Yeah, that's turning into an episode of TMZ right now.
Yeah, I don't even know if they know that, but yeah, I just knew because I knew the family.
They do now.
Huh?
I said they do now. Big fans of breaking down bets.
Yeah, this is gonna be a highlighted clip. Y'all gonna clip this piece out and then pay for promotion just for that clip right there.
Coming America 2's coming out. This will play. It'll work. Yeah.
So I ended up making a laugh and joking around, and so I became one of the castmates for this show. And so here's how I got into stand-up. So after the show, they were like, Willie, you're funny, so we're gonna have you do most of the radio interviews. So I'm doing the interviews. Like I was on the Steve Harvey morning show. I was like, if there was an interview radio show, I was on it. And so what they do with a lot of these shows is they give them the season up front, even before the season starts, so we can have conversations like, oh, we saw in episode 4 that this is about to happen. And it's like, oh, yeah. So one of the questions or comments that I got a lot was, you're a really funny dude on that show. Tell us a joke. I was like, what? First of all, every comic, no matter how seasoned you are, hates when someone says, can you tell me a joke? Like, die. And I got asked this so much, I decided to write my very first joke. So my very first joke I've ever written, that I've ever told, was I'm still new to Los Angeles. But since I've been out here, I was shot at 3 times. My car was broken into, and my place got robbed. So I got that taken care of, and I broke up with that girl. Like that's my very first joke I ever wrote. And then I tell that joke, they're like, tell us more. And I was like, what the fuck? You greedy bastards. Like, I started doing stand-up because people kept asking me that. And that started in like 2008, 2007, 2008.
Wow.
Yeah, 2008. And so then I stopped doing stand-up from 2011 to 2014 because this shit was hard and I hated it. I hated sitting here I hated the work. I hated that you just go up every night and try to make people laugh. It was LA's a showcase city, so people are real cliquey here. But the reason that I didn't find as much trouble getting along with people. I don't even want to say getting along, making acquaintances, was because one, I was on TV. Everybody wants to be cool with the person that's on TV. And then two, it was just like, two, I was still on TV. So, but I didn't want to put in the work that came along with it, where they was like, hey, we're going to do 3 mics a night. Then we're going to go to the Laugh Factory and hang out. I'm like, oh, y'all going up at the Laugh Factory? And like, no, you just go up there and hang out. I'm like, you just go hang out. I was like, and at this time, my little circle. Oh, the other thing that helped me out a lot was I was really good at basketball. And when they found that out, there was a comedy league. There was a basketball comedy league. And so I was like, my team has a lot of big names now. Like, who all played on in this league and on my team? Brent Morin, Rick Glassman, Lamorne Morris, Adam Devine, Ari Shaffir.
I feel like a lot of short people. Like Brett and Adam Devine, aren't they shorter?
Oh yeah, they're best friends, but the complete opposite basketball wise. Like Adam, every time we gave him the ball, we knew that shit was going over the backboard. He never hit rim. Never hit rim. Brent Morin though was a nice 3-point shooter, and apparently, not apparently, I found out later Brent played AAU basketball. Like he was really good. And
Shaffir good? Isn't he taller?
Now, Ari Shaffir he is taller, and that's why people play with him. He's very aggressive.
He's tall. Okay, that answers it.
He's not a traditional basketball player. He's not the first person you're picking up. Only reason he's the first person you're picking up right now is because he's Ari Shaffir. Other than that, he's like, fuck, we'll just play 4-on-5. And he's like, I'm right here. It's like, no, we cool.
So in that league, if it comes down to the last second, you got to make that shot. Was it you? Is that where? No?
It's fun. It was either Brent or this other person on our team. Rick Glassman played basketball. You know Rick Glassman?
I'm not familiar with him.
Rick Glassman, another comedian. They was on him and Brent Morin are like best friends. Okay. So if it was like a low post thing, it was me because I could jump really high. Like I was dunking on everybody so I quit comedy, but I still played in that basketball league. So that kind of kept me similar, like somewhat relevant. But as I quit from 2011 to 2014, I became a TV editor. Like I was editing TV shows. And I was like, maybe this is just my calling. I was making decent money, and I was growing in the community. And so I was like, yeah. But as I was doing it, you just saw Brent Morin gets his own Netflix and I'm like, well, I remember helping him with when he was doing these. Or Ari got him a show. What was that one on Comedy Central? But that took a long time for them to finally make happen. Then I just, like I said, I saw everybody that I was starting off with start to just blow up, and not just a little bit, but like a lot. Mm-hmm. But I'm an editor. I'm doing my work, and I was like, I hate this shit, yo. And I was like, what did I do wrong in stand up? And here's where I went wrong. When I was first starting in stand up, those 3 years that I was doing it, I was going off the fact that I was funny on this show, just this goofy person, and I was just forcing laughs. And in a real audience, nobody was like, it worked on TV being like, hey, what's up? Yeah, all that craziness. And it never translated to stage. And I didn't realize that until I started reading books and like a couple comedy books. Like, yeah. And it was Judy Carter and just
how. Yeah, always Judy Carter. Always Judy Carter.
You got Judy Carter too?
Joke Bible, man. Everybody says Judy Carter. Yeah, you gotta do it.
You gotta do it. So I ended up getting like multiple of those books. I was listening to audio books on how to be a better writer, and I realized that I had to really connect with the audience more. And when you connect with them, no matter what you have to say, they're gonna be on board with you all the way. Because I used to always look at like a Dave Chappelle. I'll say, for example, he'll go on stage and be like, look at you motherfuckers. And everybody would laugh. I'm like, that's not even written funny. Like, how do you make people laugh just based off of saying, look at you motherfuckers? And so, but it was his presence, that aura, that confidence that he has. And I was like, oh. So then I started rewriting my jokes to build like a personal connection with folks. And then you can get away with talking about stuff. Like I talk about now, I used to give my son Z-Quil. If you heard a parent say that, you'd be like, you tried to kill your kid. Like, we need to support you. But because I say it on stage and I say it with like I play the victim. Like, how did I know? I was 16 when I had a kid. I didn't know. All I knew was that Z-Quil put you to sleep. I didn't know I was giving my son scissor and like whatever. You build it up. I'm like, did I need to put the codeine in it? No. But so now I get people to laugh at that because they're like, oh, he's so dumb, this fucked up, versus that is shame. So I started really working my jokes like that, and it just kind of changed everything in my writing and just whatever.
That's such a good point. God, such a good point. So many people, there's some people in town that I'm like, how are they getting laughs? They're not even punchlines in there. But it's something about the connectivity and the way that you address the crowd. When you make that connection, you just being yourself gets the laugh. It's so crazy. When I respect comics who can do that, but it blows my mind when you see it happening. You're like, that's not even a joke. How's that happening?
Yeah. You can go on stage and not say nothing. Like sometimes I've gone on stage purposely. I will craft it this way. Like I even in my intros, I write my jokes. Like if I know that I'm the only black person on the show, I'm like, they're like, what do you want us to say? I'm like, say that he's here for affirmative action reasons. Or I tell the DJ, I'm like, what do you want to go up to? Everybody got a song they go up to. I go up to Beethoven's Fifth. And as soon as and they dun, 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 and I'm on stage like, and I do this for like a few seconds, like, what the fuck? And then everybody just starts laughing off that. Or I'll go on stage. One time I'll just look at everybody in the audience. Just me doing that sigh is like, oh, it's either he's had a hell of a day or here we go again. And as soon as I do that, people like, all right, let's see what he got to say. And they're versus like, all right, next comic, make me laugh. Mm-hmm. So so then I kind of saw that, or I don't have that full aura and that full confidence yet, but it's getting there.
That's stuff that some comics don't think about, getting that laugh before you even say the first word into the microphone. Like that's smart. You should create opportunities like that for yourself. Mm-hmm. You see, like, people like Brody Stevens and stuff would come out and dance and do music for like the first several minutes just to like show that he's fun, and you can't not love that person. We have a local comic who'll come out and she's a very attractive woman, and she'll come out and kind of dance and kind of get the crowd into it for a moment. And it just draws people in, and she owns the crowd before she says the first joke.
Yep, and it's definitely something you want to do. Or my first words, depending on the audience, is like a lot of white people in the audience. I'm like, "What's up, whites?" And they like, "Oh shit." And if you can get I try to figure out my best strategy of getting that first laugh within the first 15 seconds, or how I can connect with them at least in that first 15 seconds.
That's watching a lot of the pros and on our show here in Houston, they're scanning the room, and they've got either a person or a group of people that they're ready to get into. They've done that work. And I think the lesson here, based on what you just said, is the moment that your name is called, when that host finishes, that's your time. All that time is time for you to make that connection with the audience, to make that first laugh. And it doesn't always have to be verbally, but then your first words are important. This is critical. So, and then the jokes, you went back and I guess fell in love with stand-up comedy again, because like, oh shit, I actually got to write jokes. And then now these jokes are working, and you started, I guess you enjoyed that process of writing. This is a good transition actually for us to get into writing. What we do with all of our guests is, how does Willie Macc write comedy? Open-ended.
So the way that I write comedy is my stand-up is very based on my life. And so I take from what's going on, and I figure out that in improv class, I went to UCB, and what they teach there is, if this is true, then what else? Meaning, like, if you can make someone believe this, you can make them believe this. And even if it's an exaggerated, a bunny is in space. If that's true, then what is this bunny doing in space? This bunny is in space building a society for bunnies on Earth so they can have a place to stay. If that's true, then what else is true? So then there's this bunny king that's also like, so I build my stand-up based on, like, if I can get them to, if this is true, then, let's say this. So I find stuff in, for example, one of the bits that I'm working on now is I talk about my son. I talk about my son a lot. Because he's in front of me. He's young. We don't have a traditional father-son relationship. For example, my son, when he, like, I joke about, like, him calling me dad is as if my name is dad versus, like, the father figure. Like, he snuck in with this girl and she freaked out. She, oh my God, your father's here. And he's like, where? Oh, he's like, no, that's just dad. He's cool. Like so if that's true, then I'm like, when the other times that could possibly be true? Like I'll say, like, my son sucks at sports. I ask him all the time, where's his father at? Like, and I'm like, okay, if that's true, then what else? Like, I just build off that. So I sit around, and then I will even sometimes diagram ideas. Like, I will, like, son, and I write everything about him. I'm like, had him as a teenager. I knocked up a lesbian. He's 6'3". He's a gamer, but he sucks at games. But he doesn't like sports because and I write everything about him. And then I try to figure out, what do I want to even compare him to? A question that I ask myself and I ask other comedians, and it comes off a little mean sometimes, is, why is this funny? Why would someone laugh at this? Not why would you laugh at this? I get it. You wrote it. This is golden. But why am I laughing at your joke? I mean, you say, and then I said, I peed on the toilet seat. I'm like, why would I want to laugh at that? Why did I care about this fucking story unless I find out that you built up this whole truth system over here of, like, because come to find out, when you piss on the toilet seat, the laser beam shoot, I don't know, something stupid. But it's like, why would I want to laugh? So as I'm writing about my son and me having him as a teenager, I'm like, oh, I know why people would laugh at this, because they would want to know, how would you raise what was it like raising a teenager as a kid? Like, how I was a baby raising a baby, essentially. So I'm like, what are some stories that happened that if I told people now, they would be like, what? And I was like, oh, I remember I used to put ZQL in my son's orange juice. Or when he got upset, he used to threaten to run away from home all the time. Like, when he was like at 8-10, he was like, I hate you all. I'm running away from home. Then I'm like, if I say that, what's funny about that? Oh, I know what's funny about him possibly running away from home. Maybe I don't have to pay child support on those days. Is that something I can bring to the court? Like, look, he was gone from day to next day. So the 500, is that really for, like, people were like, oh my God, did he really just try to figure out how to negotiate that? So I'm like, okay, if they believe so far I'm on two levels of this. I'm like, how I raise a kid young, me negotiating my child support payment if he is to run away. And then I come to find out he's now 18, which we all believe that you stop paying child support at 18. Like, that's the magical number for every single father. It's like, 18, no more child support. But if they go to college, you got to pay child support till they're 21. So I'm over here telling my son, look, Mark Zuckerberg didn't go to school. Don't you want to be PewDiePie? Look, I'll buy you a dope ass gaming system. Like, so how fucking of a father are you that you're now sitting here telling your son not to go to college? He'd be like, but Dad, I want to be a doctor. Fuck a doctor. That's Malcolm. Like Dr. J ain't a real doctor. Just call yourself doctor. Like,
I love it that you refer to it as levels, because that's how you kill, man. You keep leveling it up, and you keep the laughter coming, and that's what you did there when you constructed that joke from us. And I just wanted to share with you one quick thing from last night. So that if this is true, then what else? I actually gave a comic last night that note. I didn't call it like that. You call it way more eloquently than I ever could. But I basically said, if that's true, what else? He had a scenario where he's like, what if you're white and you have to ensure your whiteness, and then the next morning you woke up black, and now you want to cash in on that policy? Like, I need that $20 million, and that's where he stopped. And I'm like, okay, no. If that's true, then what else? What else are you gonna do now that you're a black person? It's with a white person trapped inside him with $20 million. What are you doing next? And so that's the note I gave him.
Yeah, I give that note all the time. Like, I was listening to a comic tell a story last night about how she talked about this experience of how this person shitted on the dance floor at this party or whatever. And then she told it punchline and moved on. I said, whoa, what happened to that person? Like, he's like, oh, I don't know. I was like, no, make that shit up. Like, right. We punched it up to where it's like she looked at the floor and was like, "Oh my God, security!" Because she's the person was drunk. Someone shit on the floor, and it's like yeah, let's make this journey. How do you go home after that? Do you still sit in somebody's Uber after blah 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 blah? But yeah, if this is true, then what else is it? I go by that very diligently.
Yeah, that's such a great note, and I think as a younger writer, and all younger writers, we're always struggling. Like, we might write a really good one-liner, and we get the germ or the spark of a joke, but what we really want is that to turn into like a 3-minute to 5-minute chunk on the topic, and that's how I guess that's kind of one of the main ways you can get there, to really like a similar note. One of my kind of mentors always said, if you get one laugh out of something, you can get 3 laughs out of something. And so, like, find those other laughs. And I think that's what a great tip and an encouragement is. If you have something that's working on stage, don't let it stop with that laugh. Where else can you go with that bit? Even if it's just a one-liner.
Milk the fuck out of everything. I tell people every time they tell a sentence, there is a joke in there. Somewhere, like when you listen to some comics and they just like constant laughter. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, fuck, I'm not great at it by any means, but I do realize, I'm like, oh, there's something more that I could say here. I raised my son as a kid. There's something funny just in that sentence right there, so I can squeeze that out. I can sit there and be like, my son's 18, and I still look like I could go to college. Like, so okay, where can we connect with people on this shit? Because you just said a sentence that people are, and I go off of facial reactions. Like when I tell people I got an 18-year-old, you see a lot of people like, you see people like, what? 8? How old are you? So then I wrote something because I saw this for so many times. I'm like, I know y'all looking at me like, black don't crack, divided by 2. Listen, he got a 18. Oh shit, this black guy's 63 years old. So I write for responses, and a lot of comics do that too. It was like, what do you do for a living? They already have a joke for what they do for a living, or if they are quiet, they got. You write a lot of comics that I know that they will write for the yes or no's of like, you drink Pepsi? Yes. Da 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 da. You drink Pepsi? No. See something wrong? Then da 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 da. They got to answer for everything. So when yeah,
that's fun. And that crowd interaction. Do you do a lot of crowd work in your typical set? Is that a big part of your show?
I do a lot of crowd work, and not just crowd work. I do what I like to, I guess, probably just call this. I'm about to say like what I like to call is, if I made this shit up, like I do a lot of crowd connection. So I got I got a baby mama. She's a stud. Have you ever had sex with a stud, sir? I'll ask them. And they're like, most time, no. Well, it wasn't until my baby mama, like, she made me realize that chivalry wasn't dead. Like, that's what it's like dating. For the 3 years that me and her dated, I thought that women were supposed to open doors for men. Like, that's how. Have you ever has this lady over here ever opened the door for you? Like, see,
Yeah.
the pros and cons.
You find that I feel like maybe sometimes in a colder room where the crowd isn't quite broken and isn't loving, like bar shows where maybe people didn't even know there was going to be comedy that night, finding those connections and finding a way to make your joke super relevant to people in the crowd, like it brings the audience in, right? Maybe I've seen a couple hosts just like the Comedy Cellar or something like that. The host comes out and just peppers the room with observations about everyone, and so that when the first comic comes up, everyone has been addressed, everyone's been seen and talked to a little bit, and it makes them more ready to receive the comedy, I guess. It's just, that's what it seems like, a good strategy to just really make your set strong.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that.
So next question, when you're prepping for a set, do you do set lists? How do you prepare for a set, showcase type thing?
I have people that come to my shows because they like, even though we've heard your jokes several times, Willie, you always say it differently. I do not. I try to have a set list. Like, I'll write down what I want to say, but then I get on there. Either I forgot my list, or I did a TV taping, and I did a TV taping, and one way they do a lot of these TV tapings, if people that's listening don't know, is they'll put your set list behind like the TV, so you know where you're going. Like, they'll have all the camera angles, but then there's a screen just for you to refer, and they want you to send it to them ahead of time so they can track it. I had this person, I felt so bad because they was like scrolling, because they was like, "We never said this. This isn't even a part of this. Why is he telling this joke now? It's down here. It's supposed to be." I was all over the place. So I bet having a set list is very helpful. I end up ranting. I end up finding something different. I'll go up there with a set list, but then I'll hear what some comics were talking about earlier, and now I feel like I got to address what they were saying. If they say this, or there's a couple audience members, like there's probably in that one that you were looking at, where my stand-up, I was talking about this guy that wasn't laughing at anybody in this audience in this clip. And I was like, dude, well, why you, now I got to address this. And, but I have an idea of where I want to go. I know the stories that I want to talk about. Where will they go and how will it go? It changes, because sometimes you're up there and they don't want to hear half the shit you got to say. I'm over talking about how my son was almost aborted or whatever. And now you get people like, boo, like that's fucked up. Or whatever. Now it's like, okay, so now I got to change this whole structure. So it's very loose. I have an idea, and then I need to address this person. Like, so da. And I always kind of get people back on my side by playing the victim, by playing.
Yes.
I'm like, look, when that person booed me, or like, pro-life, whatever, I was like, I was 15 when I found out that I was having a kid. And now you get people to kind of like, oh, you feel like, what would you have done at 15? I got a spanking for spilling ketchup on my nice white shirt. Could you imagine telling your dad at 15, hey, man, funny thing, Erica's pregnant? And he's like, how? And it's like, she's still a woman, Dad, no matter how studly she is. So now you got to wean them back on by playing. Like, why would you laugh at me? And by me sitting here telling you my story, that's fucked up for you to sit here and judge me on. Now that person is like,
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think we've all probably seen new comics just stick so rigidly to their set and material and just bomb harder and harder. And the more experienced ones know, it does kind of feel sometimes that the audience doesn't want material some nights. They're not vibing with it. You got to find another path to success. Yeah.
I've been in that before, where I just talked to them. I mean, I still was able to push some of my jokes in there, but it was just more of a conversation. Like, and it's starting to become a little bit more popular now, especially when you watch a lot of Dave Chappelle's new stuff. He's just talking. There's some jokes in there, but it's actually really deep and it's really like insightful. And when people can feel like they can take something away from what you're doing, either they take away a laugh or they're gonna take away something like, oh, I never thought of that. Like I have a joke. It's not the best joke, but it's a joke that I do where I talk about I wear glasses because I know it makes me look safe. If I take my glasses off, look like this, look like an angry black person. I keep put the glasses on, same face, now I look like I'm thinking about something. But at the same time, I get people hit me up after the show. It was like, I never thought about that. That's actually kind of sad that you wear glasses because you know how it makes you look. But I'll keep on going with that. And so when you start giving people a lesson and you're talking about, they're not going to either some of them might interrupt you, but it's very rare. But they laugh or information, and you can kind of just vibe off that for a while.
Absolutely. I think it was Dave Chappelle one way or another. So you don't have to be funny, but you do have to be interesting. I don't know if that's I'm paraphrasing, but that's something that's always stuck with me. But if somebody calls you, they're like, hey, where are the jokes? Make sure you got something to give him back, because that guy can win real quick if you're not prepared for that. If you're just
Where are the jokes? This is a fucking comedy club? Shit.
Yeah.
TED Talk or something.
Yeah. The last question before we cue up your clip is, what are you doing moments before you get on stage? Is there any rituals or anything you're doing right before you get up?
I have really bad stage fright. I'm the guy that got the shit. I throw up. I cry. I've cried before I go up. I'm just, because every time I'm like, it's a new audience. Like my boy or whoever be with me, they be like, dude, you know you're gonna do fine. I'm like, I don't know. This is a whole new audience. I don't, and my anxiety goes through the roof. But as soon as I hear Willie Macc, somehow something just clicks. Like something's like, all right, Willie, I'm taking over. It's like,
That's true. I think sometimes one of the beautiful things about comedy is that you're not yourself. You are kind of a different version of yourself on stage.
That's
great.
Completely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I show up to shows sometimes. I'm just exhausted, and I'm like, but then the part of me just knows, like you just said, as soon as they say my name, I've got the energy. There it is, and the anxiety too, man. Especially for larger crowds, that's more new people that never met me before. So I'm with you. The clip that we picked out is a New Faces deal at the Laugh Factory. Do you remember this set? Or about this?
Yeah. I remember this set.
Anything specific about that day you recall?
This was like my first time performing at the Laugh Factory. I've been hanging out up there. It was one of those moments they have like the Laugh Factory has a open mic that starts at 7 p.m. And the first 10 people are guaranteed to go up. The next 10 people are in a lottery. So if you want to be part of the first 10, you had to get up there at like 12 o'clock and wait like those 6 hours. And it's like, there's always those comics that be like, fuck. Like they come with chairs, they bring in lunches, we got books, and we was doing this every Tuesday. Now, then there's people behind. Now this line has gotten longer because they just hoping they get their name picked out of the hat. So I was doing that for a while. Never got really done. I've never actually did a show there. I've done like a couple open mics, but I didn't want to stand in that line, and that's how you kind of get on New Faces. Like some of the people, all of that. I signed with 3 Arts Entertainment. It's a really big management company. He's like, you ever done Laugh Factory? I said, no. He's like, oh, this motherfucker made a call, and I was on New Faces within like a couple of weeks. I'm like, you know how many fucking hours I have sat in this damn line trying to get my name picked out of this fucking hat, and all you had to do. I was like, this business is something else. This business is all about who you know. And while I say that, a lot of young comics, what I did to become one of those folks that you know is I read a book, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence.
Yeah, Read it.
I always tell people to read that book. I always tell people to read The Alchemist. And then, we got the Judy Carters that we got to tell folks to read as well. But I was like, okay, when friends influence people. So when I was going to open mic, I would go to the 99-cent store and buy a bottle of wine. And I would go, for $3-4 wine bottle, and I get some cups. And at every open mic, I would pour myself a glass and be like, hey, anybody else want some? Oh, I'll take some. So now I have some wine. I don't do vodka. I drink all of this other shit. But some of these other places, like the open mic, get the cheap bottle of wine because no one ever really knows. People only look at either the year or they either know it's either a cab or a Chardonnay, whatever. So it makes you look classier when you bring wine. If I would have brought a whole whiskey by it, like, oh fuck, Willie, we trying to turn up. But when you bring the wine, you just sitting there, you in the open mic. Right now, I got my legs curled, so you can't sit up. So you're over there, Willie Macc. All right, yeah. Make sure y'all get some wine. So now people are starting to invite me to shows because I'm just become that cool person that they can like, oh, Willie dope, man. He drink wine sometime, blah blah blah. Or what I did, because what got me into photography is I would tell comedians that had shows, I'm like, hey, who's shooting your show? Oh, we don't have nobody. I'll shoot your show, but in exchange, I want to be in on one of your shows. I'm not just a photographer, but I'll give you pictures. So that's how I started getting on more and more shows. Then they find out who I am, and it's like, oh, he's funny and he stays working and blah 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 blah. So yeah, so who industry. I got the phone call for Fresh Faces. And now I got my podcast called Afro Noodles at the Laugh Factory Podcast Network because of my manager making that call to get me on that show that I've been sitting outside for fucking years at the open mic. And this is the night that I finally was able to perform.
Excellent. I'm gonna go ahead and roll that clip. Stick around.
This is for you all. I don't know. I'm just trying to be cool. You know what it is? My son will turn 17 years old next week. Yeah. I started extremely early. Like, when I was graduating high school, my son was graduating preschool. Like, that's how young of a dad I am. Like, we mutually decided to have our graduation party together at Chuck E. Cheese. Group decision. I was a young dad. I was. Like, here's how young of a dad I am. Like, I remember my son ran into my room. He was probably 3 at this time. It was like 2 a.m. He screams, Dad, there's a monster in my room. There's a monster in my room. And I remember getting mad at my son because I thought he was bringing the monster into my room. Go back to your room, Malcolm. The monster wants you. It's something that I said as a father. And he just like, do something, Dad, do something. And I was like, all right. So I picked my son up, I put him on my shoulder, and I ran into my dad's room like, Dad, there's a monster in our room, there's a monster in our room. I live an interesting life, because my story gets more interesting. I knocked up a lesbian who wanted to try out men. Oh, yeah, that's what happened in high school. And now she's full on butch. Like the baggy pants, the Timbo boots, like the flannel with the low cut, like that's my baby mama. I knocked up a more masculine version of myself. Like when we're out in public, we look like a gay couple that adopted a child. And I don't look like the top in this gay relationship that I'm in. Oh God, my life is fucking crazy. It is. And I had to explain this to my son. Because to my son, he doesn't see lesbian. He doesn't see butch. He's like, this is mom, your dad. Why are you all not together anymore? Because like, she's my best friend. She's my homie. Like, I knocked the homie up, like, which is weird to say out loud, but I did. And so I told my son, I was like, Malcolm, me and your mom, we just happen to like the same gender. He said, what, Dad? I was like, yeah, this is the first time he heard this. He's like, I knew it, Dad, I knew it. And I was like, really, Malcolm, what is it that you knew? He was like, that you and Mom both like men. Wait, you think I'm the gay one? I was like, no, Malcolm, what did I do to make made you think that I was gay? He's like, I can see 2 quarters in your left pocket right there. Like, here's what it was that made my son think that I was gay. So my son, who follows me on Facebook, a few years ago, I didn't know that the eggplant emoji stood for dick. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. And I made a post on Facebook that said, I had eggplant for the first time last night and really enjoyed it. It was life-changing. So in my son's head, he reads, I had dick for the first time last night. My son think I got life-changing dick out there and then like the status. But my son doesn't respect me as a father. He doesn't, because I'm such a young dad. And here's how I knew my son didn't respect me as a father. So a couple months ago, I busted my son's room and I caught my son watching porn. And I jumped in there like, Malcolm! He freezes, ha, 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 slams his laptop shut. He looks up and says, oh man, I thought you was mama. Lifts the laptop back up and continues to watch the porno. And I was like, Malcolm, why are you not tripping? I just caught you watching porn. He's like, Dad, it's Big Booties 3. I said, nigga, they came out with a third. All right, y'all, I'm Willie Macc. Thank you all for listening.
All right, man. Great stuff.
That's so good. I write so much. I think, and Brian too, we write so much biographical kind of comedy that I just appreciate that so much. I love the idea that you can get to know someone through their comedy act, and it's not just a bunch of fluff and just impersonal jokes. I love that after I watch your set, I kind of know who Willie Macc is, and I feel I feel more connected to you because I know your story. I love comics and comedy like that, and thanks for sharing. And you didn't hear it, but if you the callback in there was the skinny jeans, right, with the quarters in your pocket. It wasn't in the clip. If you're confused about that callback, it's the skinny jeans. Your jeans are so tight you can see what year the quarters were in your pockets.
It is, because people ask about that, like when they posted that, people was like, what's up with this 50 cents? Like there's another, like they posted it on the Laugh Factory Instagram page, just that part of the joke. It's like,
you need the setup for the callback there. Yeah,
you need the setup for the callback, Laugh Factory.
Did you start writing that biographical kind of stuff? Was that right off the bat kind of where the comedy started, or did you try some other stuff first and then land there?
So it landed there. I have an idea in my head of what I want 10 years from now, well, within 10 years. I want a TV show based on my life. So the best way that I planned to do that was to get people interested in my life. And that's how I ended up at a 3 Arts, by telling that joke right there at the Comedy Store. And they was like, do you have a script about your life? I'm like, yeah, I got a script about my life. I didn't have a script about my life. I ended up finding somebody to write it real quick. And I mean, I helped them, but I wasn't like a writer yet. So I showed them this. They're like, somebody's gonna want to know about, like, they're gonna want to pitch your life. Like, I want something that people will remember me by. One thing I learned about Bernie Mac, and the Bernie Mac show was based off his stand-up. Steve Harvey, or his show was based off his life. Then Tim Allen, that Home Improvement was based off that joke that he had about finding, what was it? Do y'all know that joke that he had about men shopping at Sears or something like that? That's how he got his show. Tim Allen didn't have a traveling set by the time he had his show. He wasn't like one of those big touring comics or anything like that. So I was like, I felt more comfortable writing that way. There's some great people that out there write one-liner jokes. They write jokes about what they've seen in the news. I mean, congrats to all of that. I got a couple of them, but my bread and butter was to talk about what I know and what I feel at the moment and what I'm struggling with, because either people in the audience are parents, want to be parents, and I write my jokes very female friendly. Because females are the ones that are either going to support you, they're going to be the ones who come to your shows, they're the ones that's being brought on a date to your show. So if you can write for them, then you can, you know, you can kind of thrive in a sense. And I even work with female comics, like those are who I write with the most, so I can say the right thing or do it that way. And then I put my own little man spin on it.
Well, you mentioned I do a lot of stuff about my kids too, and certainly, you know, not everybody has children, but everybody was once a kid, and you did a great job with your joke when you're with the monster, because you use your son's voice, and that was his voice, and then when you go into the room, you use the same voice as you talking to your dad, and that's what really connected it for me, and really brought that joke home, in my opinion. So that's great. And then when you talked about women, you couldn't just come out and just start doing those butch lesbian jokes. You'd get killed. You'd be murdered. So you're able to do it because this is your story, and you're like, look how stupid I am. Like, this is the thing, you know, it's the self-deprecating angle. And if you do it that way, you can get into whatever damn topic, nearly any topic you want to, as long as you're the best.
Yeah. So that's very important for me with the way that I write it that way. Like I write my jokes, and how can someone have a conversation off of this? Eggplant emoji is a favorite of people, because I wrote that because I knew what an eggplant emoji was, but I never really tripped off of it, because, you know, you get like, I was like, how can I make this? Because what really happened, the truth behind this whole story, before the leveling up, was my son, when we was a kid, would ask, hey, Dad, why don't you and Mom get back together, because y'all are friends? And then it always made me laugh, because I was like, because your mama's gay, boy. Your mama is a lesbian. But you can never tell a kid that. So he never seen me with women. So I was like, I wonder if my son thinks that I don't. And then when he found out, because she ends up telling him, and because I actually ended up telling him that his mom was gay, because I didn't know that he didn't know. I had zero idea that he didn't know that his mom was, because now he's like maybe like 12, 13 when he's asking. I'm like, Malcolm, you know your mom likes women. No, she doesn't. I was like, oh. I called Erica. I said, hey, Malcolm, you never told Malcolm that you're a lesbian? No, he's too young. I'm like, well, he knows now. Like, so I get that. So from there, I was like, what if my son thought that I was the gay one this entire time versus his mom? And I was like, how could he think that I was gay? And I was like, what are some things that I could do that would really resonate with a kid? And I was like, emojis have been over-sexualized a lot. Yeah. Oh, what if I post about having an eggplant emoji and my son sees it, and that's how, then boom, that's how I leveled up on there. So by me either playing the victim, and I can squeeze in an extra joke about having a lesbian baby mama that I could probably use later, and so I keep on writing in that sense.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's so fun. Even just those couple of minutes, man, you can just. You get so much of your story in such a compact way. It's really great, tight writing.
Thank you. Yeah, but now I'm expanding my jokes, because one thing that I learned, or just even from me, so I'm now, I remember 2 years ago, maybe like 3 years ago, I started going on the road. And one thing about Los Angeles, you're not doing more than 7-10 minutes on a set. Yeah, there's not a place out here, because those are, and even like headliners, like big names, are only doing like 15, maybe 30. So I was asked to go on the road, do this casino tour, and they're like, you got to have 30 minutes. And I was like, huh? Yeah. I ain't got 30 minutes. I got a hard 10, 15. And I was like, fuck it. And I forced myself. I was going to open mics 2-3 times a night, and I was forcing myself to write new material. So I get my 30. I'm good at my 30, right? So I get there, I do the casino thing, boom, boom. Then I was asked to headline at the Orpheum Theater in Flagstaff. I was like, all right, how much time y'all want? And they was like, well, you know, we're looking for headliners. You're headlining, so at least an hour. I'm like, it took me 5 years to get 10. It took me another year to get 30. I'm like, what? And I'm like, the show's in a few months. And so as I started watching a lot of comedians, especially the ones that I look up to, the Richard Pryors, the Bernie Macs, and some of these other folks, they talk to the audience for a while, build up this trust. They build and release a lot. They build and release. That's why we can listen to Dave Chappelle's thing and only laugh 3 times in that whole 20-minute thing that he threw on YouTube. He built it up this entire time. And even though a lot of people felt the way about that, the story, he's very colorful, man. Guys, I don't even want to talk about how dope he is. We all know he's a mad fucking genius. But some people don't want to laugh for a whole hour because that shit starts to hurt. It's like, it's good that you can do that, but sometimes they just want to hear something, then laugh. So I started expanding my jokes. I started talking about, if I'm talking about like, yeah, and I told my son about his shirt, I will end up going, I bought my son some Converse, and he went outside and he took the Converse and started scraping it against the concrete. True story. And I'm like, Malcolm, what the fuck are you doing? He was like, they're too clean. I will be made fun of in school for having too clean shoes. They need to look distressed. This is what he said. I mean, I knew distress was a thing, but I didn't know they was purposely distressing stuff. I'm like, motherfucker, we could have went to the Goodwill and had a like. So I now will take that bit. I'm like, so that's the true story. Now I will take that bit. Like, could you imagine the person that's sitting there in this child factory in China? Like, you know, I'll go there a little bit. And this little kid is putting this together, sewed it perfectly just for this little motherfucker to just rip this shit to shreds. Do you think that person is going crazy right now if they knew that there was this kid? Like, and so then I'll take that piece. I'm like, this is a cotton fiber. Then I'll put some history in it. I'm like, my people pick this cotton, go do this, to do that for this little motherfucker. Did they not know if Mount? So I build my stories that way, and then I'm like, listen, do you agree with me? And I'm talking to someone, and so I put some thoughts into it and just make it a conversation. I know where I want to tell a joke and all of that. So.
That's great. That's a great tip for like the intermediate level of, hey, I got a strong 10, 15. How do I turn that into a 30?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's my process.
That's awesome.
I took away a ton from this talk today as far as how I can write. I mean, some of the ideas as far as leveling up your jokes or maybe punching up is the way we look at it. If that's true, then what else is true? I mean, so. And as I kind of round the corner into looking at 30 minutes, I'm kind of at that 30-minute set that you're building now. I'm ready to start building those sets out. All this stuff is super helpful, man. So thank you for sharing your process with us. The last thing we're going to put you under it's called Last Laugh, okay? And it's a little bit morbid, so bear with us. We got a little graphic here we're going to play, and we'll get into it. It's so weird. I know. All right. So, the question is, it's your comedy legacy, man. It can be your joke, it can be Bernie Mac's joke, somebody else's joke. What is the joke that you want to have on your tombstone to be remembered by?
I don't know if it's a joke, but I would like to say he died with his glasses off because he had his glasses off.
That's a joke.
People will always remember. I get people that ask me like, do the glasses bit. If I don't do the glasses, it's interesting. Like they're treating comedy sometimes now like rock stars. Like they're requesting certain jokes from us. Like there's this time where if you said the joke and you circle back around, you're a hack comic. But now they're like, hey, do this joke, do the show. I brought this person to do that joke right there. And this is the last thing, and I'll let go, because I always also thought, because like on my TikTok, some of my jokes got millions of views, and I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna be able to do this joke again. But then I had to remember the number wise, out of this million people, That's like maybe like 1,000 per state, and then across the country, like half these people have never heard this joke. So feel free to do some of these jokes that you've done for a couple times over, and you're like, oh, I've done it so many times. Everybody ain't seen that shit. And still, I still listen to Chris Rock's old stuff. That shit still makes me laugh. So yeah.
Yeah, people are weird. The comics are weird about putting their jokes out there on the online. I'm like, no, do it, man. Like they're worried that people are gonna see it. Like nobody's gonna see it. No, nobody's gonna see it. You're okay.
I swear I had that conversation with my friend because I was like, hey man, they want to tape it, they're gonna throw it on YouTube. He's like, nah, they get about 50,000 views. I don't want people to have seen my joke. I'm like, that's over the world.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this up there because I'm listening. Afro Noodles, Willie Macc, and it looks like Danny Plum. So that's one place. You get the HGTV thing coming up. Anything else that we can look for? Where to follow you? Where to find you for our listeners?
Yeah, everybody just follow me up, Willie Macc. This WILLIEMACC on all social medias. I got a couple things in the works. So, but right now, what's solidified is the Afro Noodles podcast on Laugh Factory Network, and then yes, HGTV 2022. So keep an eye out for me. I'll be the only Black person on HGTV. Ain't missing.
That's awesome. Thanks for the time today. Wonderful conversation. A lot of great nuggets. I think hopefully everyone else will get as much out of it as we did. Great conversation today.
Hey, I appreciate it. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow @BreakingDownBits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at